Get ready with me. Okay, this one's a little bit weird, but I'm going to go ahead and film it and then decide later whether I want to post it because I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see how it goes. But first, can we talk about my roots because they are so dark and I'm getting my hair done tomorrow. So I'm so excited. Hopefully the next video you see from me will be not looking like that anymore. But anyway, I was thinking about sharing this experience with you that I had recently. It was just, I don't know, 5 days ago, maybe? About 5 days ago. And it was a dream experience. And it was definitely a lucid dream. And it's not the first lucid dream that I've ever had. I've had them before, but this one was so odd. And so the way it began was I was aware in my dream that I had already been having other dreams and that they were typical dreams. This was an awareness that I had in my dream. Sort of like, oh, I'm dreaming right now and I've been dreaming all night and all of my other dreams have been standard dreams and this one feels different. That was an awareness that popped into my head inside my dream. And so I felt fully awake in my dream. It did not feel like a dream at all, but I was aware that it must be because my house looked different. The main thing that looked different is that in my regular home, I have an upstairs, and in this dream, everything was the same except there was no upstairs. And in my kitchen dining room, there was like a skylight cutout where you could see directly into the sky, which is beautiful. I wish I had that, but I have an upstairs, so that's not an option. But anyway, in this dream, I was walking into my living room and I could see through the window looking outside that it was raining sheets of rain. It was a torrential downpour unlike anything I've ever seen before. Like you would need Noah's Ark, essentially, if it were to continue raining like that for very long. And I could see in my dream that this was causing leaking. Water was pouring into my living room at a rapid rate. I wasn't too concerned because I was aware that it was a dream. So I went into the kitchen to get some towels. Not that a few towels would have done anything to clean this up. It was such a huge amount of water coming in. But I walked into the kitchen and I could see, as I was standing in the kitchen, through the skylight cutout, that there was a small family-sized spacecraft, UFO, hovering above the skylight and angled in a way where the occupants could look directly at me. They were observing me and they were very close. So I could see them as well. And it startled me. Even in my dream, I was like, well, that's weird. I've never had a dream like that before. But I wasn't scared. I was more like intrigued and a little bit excited to kind of see where this would go. I saw some movement out of the right corner of my eye, so I walked toward my front door where there are windows on either side of the door, the full length of the door. And so I can see directly outside onto the front porch. And I can see through those windows that A, it has stopped raining, which is amazing and shocking given how hard it had been raining just moments prior to that. And the sun is shining and it's not even looking wet outside. And I can see this girl, this young girl playing on my front porch. She seems very comfortable, like she's played there before. She's very at home. And I have this knowing as I'm observing her that she is the child of the occupants of the family-sized spacecraft that had been hovering above my kitchen skylight. So again, I just feel intrigued and kind of surprised and interested to see where this goes in my dream. And so I walk back toward my kitchen dining room, and standing there in my dining room are the parents of that young girl. And they just start interacting with me as though we're extremely familiar with one another. They're talking to me in a way that's very casual, almost in the way that family would talk to one another, where you know how if you meet somebody for the first time, there's a certain amount of like social grace where you're extra polite or there's just a formality of some sort. This felt more like if you go home to visit family for Thanksgiving, how you might interact with them after you've been there for a while. It's just sort of like this casual banter, extremely familiar, sort of comfortable with complaining about the minor annoyances of our day. It's that kind of initial banter. And while they feel that way toward me, I'm sort of like probably staring at them looking wide-eyed and confused because I'm not the dream version of me in this dream. I'm me. I'm me awake in the dream. You know how like if you're in a regular dream, even though you might be in a strange land, you're not surprised by it being strange because your dream self is completely acclimated to that being their reality. Whereas your awake self would be like, where in the world am I? And who are these people, right? Well, I wasn't interacting in this dream like dream self, which would be perhaps completely unfazed by all this stuff that's going on, because maybe it would be a regular part of my reality. But because I'm awake in the dream as my real self, I'm just sort of shocked. I'm in a state of shock as all of this is unfolding. And so they just keep talking to me, and I have this awareness even in the dream that part of me understands what they're saying, and another part of me has no idea what they're saying. It's like the awake part of me is observing this and thinking, I don't know what it is they're talking about. But I also have the sense that another part of me can understand what they're talking about and is engaging in conversation back and forth with them somehow. Although once I awoke from this dream, I had no recollection of the content of this conversation. So I can't recall what it is in the world we were talking about. I can only remember the tone, which was very casual, relaxed, and familiar. And so almost transitions from like a social visit to, okay, let's get down to business. Here's what we need to discuss kind of conversation. That's the tone, although I don't remember the actual content. And then at some point, I wake up from the dream and I'm fully awake. I'm curled up on my right side. And I'm aware I'm no longer in the dream at all. I'm in my bed. And yet I can still hear them talking to me. They're continuing the conversation. The conversation has not ended. I just happen to be awake now. And something strange about my awareness of the fact that we're still having this conversation is that I no longer can hear their voices as though they're in the room with me, which is how it felt in the dream. It felt as though I could hear them, like you could hear someone normally talking to you in your everyday environment. Once I woke up, I wasn't hearing them that way anymore. I was hearing them as though the sound was coming in through my left ear directly. Not like somebody was standing right by my left ear and talking into it. It felt as though it were being deposited through my left ear into my awareness, so the conversation could continue to happen. I guess what I'm saying is it just sounded different than regular sound, like a regular auditory experience, but it was still extremely realistic and clear as day. Like awake me was clearly aware that I could still hear this conversation. The conversation was still being had. And at some level, I was still engaging in the conversation, but not verbally. And then at some point, the conversation just ended naturally, and I laid there and tried to make sense of this experience that was so bizarre. This was very different than other lucid dreams that I've had before. One of the most powerful lucid dreams that I've ever had in the past was shortly after my husband died. And in my dream, I had this sensation of having rolled off my bed and fallen onto the floor. But I had a knowing in my dream that I wasn't really on the floor, that hadn't really happened, that I was dreaming that. But it felt real. It felt very real. And so I'm on the floor. And I sit up, and from behind me, Dave comes and wraps his arms around me. And I have this extreme level of excitement that he's here, that he's visiting me in the dream. I have this awareness in the dream that he is visiting me. And real life me, who's awake in the dream, is really excited about that because I had been hoping that that would happen. That was probably the last really powerful, very vivid lucid dream that I've ever had. This one felt even more real. This one felt no different from everyday life at every level, other than the details that I described that were different. So it was very strange, very interesting. Not quite sure what to make of it yet. I guess the reason why I feel compelled to share it is because part of me is curious if other people have had similar dreams. But then another reason is I kind of want to normalize sharing experiences like this, because if we share these unusual experiences with one another, then when we have them, we won't feel so strange or alone. Because what I sense is that these sorts of experiences are going to start to happen more and more often. Not just lucid dreams, but strange experiences, even in our awake life. And this is by far not the strangest experience I've ever had. It's the strangest experience that I feel comfortable sharing at this time. And it's because I just don't think that we talk a lot about really weird experiences that we have. It's kind of taboo, maybe. But I actually feel like it's going to become more and more critical that we do exchange this sort of information, because at some point, non-traditional experiences might start to become very commonplace. So I think there'll be a tipping point where it's no longer even unusual to have experiences like that, because it'll become commonplace enough and talked about enough where we simply grow to understand that it's now a part of our normal life, that life is transforming, that life is becoming more multidimensional, that the spaces between different timelines and different realms are thinner than they used to be, or that our ability to cross over into those spaces is getting stronger. In either case, I think it's really amazing. I think it's really magical. And at this point, I think it's really normal. So there you go. I filmed it. We'll see if I decide to share it. If you're watching this, obviously I chose to. I would love to hear if you've had odd experiences too. Maybe you even film a video of your own talking about it. If you do, maybe consider tagging me in it. I would love to see it. In the meantime, I hope you're doing well. Take the very best care, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.